So many of us have different reasons why we stop being compassionate, why we don't want to be compassionate, why we feel if another person is experiencing fear, another person's inner disturbance actually becomes your inner disturbance and you want to run away from that situation. One, you probably feel helpless, or you feel that other person is taking you for granted, just wanting attention and significance from you. There are so many reasons why you feel you need not be compassionate towards the other or feel the other person's pain. But do we want to grow in our compassion? Yes? Yes. But if we look at one thing that separates us or stops us from being compassionate towards the other, is to feel that we are different from the other. When you start feeling that you are different, then you will have all the reasons why you don't need to be compassionate towards the other. I am a Hindu, while you are a Catholic or a Jew. How do we connect? I am an Indian, or you are the rest of the world. How do we connect? I am very spiritual, or the other is not very spiritual. How do we connect? I am very evolved. The other is not very evolved. How do we connect? Or I am awakened, and the other is not awakened. How do we connect? We hold on to our superficial differences as much as possible, so that we are able to stop ourselves from connecting to another. I am an adventurer, the other prefers solitude. How do we connect? I like to be with people, the other person likes to be in solitude. How do we connect? So we look at the differences and we hold on to the differences very strongly so that we can stop ourselves from connecting to the other. As Isha said, I am spiritually evolved. The other person is still wallowing in suffering. Why should I connect? But once this virus of feeling separate, this virus of feeling that you are superior takes control of you, then you enter into a place of judgment. Once you feel you are separate, once you feel you are superior to the other, then you begin to judge another. And from that space of judgment, your actions would be divisive. Your actions would only create further suffering. It would not help another person move away from suffering. So your separation-driven consciousness, which is at the basis of your thinking, your separation-driven mind, makes you feel separate, makes you feel superior, and also makes you judge another, strengthening your separation-driven consciousness, separation-driven mind. And that from that place of feeling separate, you actually perform actions that cause further division in the world around you. We might believe that this separation-driven consciousness is only seen in individual conflict. But if we actually open our eyes of wisdom and see very clearly, this separation-driven mind is responsible for all the war and all the suffering that we see around us. This separation-driven mind is responsible for all the pain that we see around us. The leaders of countries, the leaders try to separate themselves as belonging to one particular ideology, as belonging to one particular culture, or dividing and separating in the color of the skin, and then separating the other, and all the actions that flow from that separation-driven consciousness leads to further division and further separation in the world. It is the same separation-driven consciousness that is underlying all religious and communal conflict. We hold on to be belonging to one separate God, one separate scripture, or one separate idea of heaven. And then, because you feel separate, you feel your God is superior to other gods, and there is conflict. You feel your scripture is superior to other scriptures, and there is conflict. Or your idea of heaven is more superior to the other's idea of heaven. And you strengthen being separate, feeling superior, and then the actions that come from the superiority, from the separation-driven mind, causes the communal rift, the communal war, or the religious war in the world we see. At an individual level, at an organization level, at the level of the family, we see the separation-driven thinking or the separation-driven mind. It could be overt or covert. It could be explicitly vilifying another person, where you separate yourself, or it could be running in the undercurrent, where there is politics, where there is gossip, where you are eaten by this virus, where you are consumed by this virus of feeling separate. But are we really separate? Are we really different? If we move away from this separation, if we go into experience of life, my experience of joy is just the same as your experience of joy. My experience of love, when I have experience of love within or connection within, is just the same when you experience love and you experience connection within yourself. My experience of fear and your experience of fear is not different. It is not separate. My experience of sorrow and your experience of sorrow is just the same. If we move away from holding on to the superficial differences that we experience in our life, we are different, we are unique. But if we move away from holding on to it and move into oneness of human experience, then we will awaken to compassion. If there is anything that is stopping you from feeling connected, if there's anything that is making you feel separate, just know that you need to bring attention to that separation-driven mind. Because it is this separation-driven mind that is responsible for all war, that is responsible for all conflict that you see in the world. It is this individual consciousness that is flowing out in the world. And every one of you are instruments of change to create a better world. You are the peacemakers. So if there is anything that is making you feel separate, just know it is causing greater suffering in this world.